Thanks everyone for coming. This is a good crowd. We've known whatever we was doing this time, we'd have had y'all here last night. This is gonna be fun, and we appreciate you showing up. I'd like to, we'll look at the agenda. I'd like a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
So moved.
All in favor, raise your right hand.
Wait a second.
Second.
He did say.
Okay, he did.
Mark second. All right, I'd like to ask Lisa Hall to read the minutes, last meeting, please.
Minutes, Downtown Development Authority of the City of Jasper, Georgia, called meeting Thursday, July 19th, 2018. Mike Denson called the meeting to order at 1:30 p.m. Mike Denson asked that the agenda be approved for the meeting. Kim Pent made a motion to adopt the agenda. Chuck Payne seconded the motion. Motion carried unanimously. Mike Denson asked that the minutes of January 12, 2018 be approved as presented. Chuck Payne made a motion to approve the minutes. Kurt Garner seconded the motion. Motion carried unanimously. There was no old business to discuss. First item under new business, Mike Denson recognized Jim Looney, interim city manager, to present for the authority's approval a property purchase located at 125 North Main Street of .172 acres. He stated that Integra Bank had offered to sell the property to the city in the amount of $100,000. Mr. Looney stated that this property could be used for restrooms as well as for parking for downtown. Mr. Looney stated that although the city would be responsible for the payments, the note on the property would have to be in the authority's name as the city is not allowed to be indebted at the close of the fiscal year. Kim Pent made a motion that the authority take ownership of the property in order to secure a note and allow the city to move forward with financing through the authority at a period not to exceed 15 years and a rate not to exceed 3.25%. Chuck Payne seconded the motion. Motion passed unanimously. Being no other business to come before the authority, Kim Pent made a motion to adjourn. Kurt Garner seconded the motion. Motion passed unanimously.
Motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second. All in favor, raise your hand. Thank you very much. All right, on to old business. We have the finalization of property purchase 125 North Main Street. Jim, do you want to address this situation? Son?
City has budgeted for the purchase of that property, financed at the Community Bank of Pickens County. Need to decide who the purchaser is going to be. In the minutes, it said that the DDA was going to purchase the property. In conversations with Mike, he has some concerns about signing the note. So need to know, are we going to, is the DDA actually going to finance it, or are we going to have council consider purchasing it with cash?
Okay.
So I've talked with the bank many times, well, mainly the attorney, and the bank does have concerns and wish that not to use the Downtown Development Authority or any authority, and for the city to either purchase the property outright, or as they already have the money, or either pledge a portion of an account to cover the amount of the indebtedness. So those are the things that they brought to me.
My concerns are about the purchase price of the property. It's .172 acres at $100,000. That establishes a value of somewhere around $1 million an acre. In Jasper, that's pretty steep. I don't know that there's precedence for that. The use of after we talked about it, looked at the property and agreed that we would go along with the initial request for our participation in the payment of that, for that piece of property and the indebtedness being to the Downtown Development Authority. That's too much for that property. That's, in my opinion, again, that's my opinion, everyone else has their own. When you start looking at the fiscal responsibility of the city of Jasper to the citizens and the taxpayers, You're gonna end up with another $40,000 in turning that into 2 bathrooms. You're gonna get 8, 9 parking places out of it. It's not in my opinion, it's not a responsible purchase for the use of it. We initially set up a purchase of the facilities here on South Main, off South Main, contiguous to our properties that we already own for use of, turn into restrooms. We have that property already under being purchased, and the Development Authority participating in the repayment of that. That was the design, to have the bathrooms located there. It would have been a much cheaper fix. I just don't see the reason for the purchase of that property, especially at a price where the bank came and gave you a number. Whether that number was negotiated down to that point, I certainly hope not, because it really started high then. But if that was not a negotiated number, it should have been. That's a piece of property that they don't have a lot of use for now. City could use it, but it's not critical to anything that I personally see. And again, we got to vote, we got a development authority who gets to decide that. So that's my opinion, and the reason that I voiced that is simply the taxpayer can't stand that type of purchase situation without and seeing some result at the next time that the budget's calculated. So that's my stance.
I have a question. You were saying the bank did not want to use the development authority?
They didn't.
And do they have a reason for that?
Probably the political climate.
Can I address that, Mr. Chairman?
Please.
So the bank, the reason they don't want to use the authority the way we've typically done properties with the authority is because of the lease agreement. And there's a particular legal clause that in order for the bank to use the lease agreement, they want some sort of stipulation in there that if the, and this is legalese, but apparently there's some sort of potential indebtedness that occur, and once the council would change, that indebtedness would go away if we didn't have this specific clause in the agreement. And it was our understanding that in a meeting we had that we've never put that clause in there, and whether we wanted to consider putting that clause in there, if it wasn't in there, the bank was not going to use the authority, if any of that makes sense.
Okay. Based on the fact that if your indebtedness, if your obligation to satisfy the debt changes when a particular city council, when the mayor, whatever changes at that point, if that changes your indebtedness, then you're certainly, obviously, they're worried about who's going to pay us, or do they have to. So that would lead to a situation either, if you're going to purchase it, city council decides to purchase it, then we have agreed to initially fund it, help with the funding of it, I would like to revisit that and see if everyone still feels that way. The majority does. Majority rules in this situation, but this it's just it's a debt that, in my opinion, it's not right to be incurred.
Can I also address the cost of the property?
Please.
Are you aware of the county appraisal value on that property? It's about $240,000. There's some contiguous properties or nearby properties that are appraised at the very close proximity to that same price, and so that's what they're being taxed on.
Is it being purchased for resale or for use?
For use. Also, we admit that no appraisal was done. We had an appraiser at the table when the initial vote took place, and neither the authority or the bank has requested that we do an appraisal before the purchase.
Right.
They have requested some boundary line agreements because of this urban legend about this huge gore that exists between the optometrist's office and that property.
Right.
That's a 30, on the plat, it's described as 30 inches, or 3 feet. It's actually, I think, more like 38 inches. There's no verbal easements that have been granted. And actually, the only easement that was found was in the original sale of the property to Jasper Banking Company. There was actually an allowance in that contract to, if that was ever used for construction, the building could actually abut the adjacent building. And obviously, we don't anticipate that having a structure on it, so that really, and we also don't know if that easement transferred when Integra took the property, so.
Has Integra been approached about any different pricing? This, I mean, this is not something to go do now, but was that done initially, or was that their asking price initially?
We felt like it was a generous offer when we originally had our conversations based on the pre-existing utilities, the existence of a structure that could very easily be modified, and I think it's a little bit more than just, there's, I think, 18 or 20 places, parking places there now.
I was gonna say.
And with, depending on how you could work the easement, you may be able to get more parking than that. If I could address also the Perot property, which indeed public restrooms have been mentioned. We have been working with the Chamber of Commerce and also the Downtown Alliance to develop a plan where we would like to have parking and public restrooms on both sides of town. There's a substantial potential for private funding on the Perot property that would possibly relieve some of the duress on the taxpayer for that particular piece of property that could be used on the Integra property. The Integra development and the Perot property actually have funds that are budgeted for those projects this year, and as well as the finance portion of the purchase price that we assumed during the budgeting process that we were going to be purchasing through the authority.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I guess I just have questions today, but if the property is not going to be funded through the Development Authority, what do? We've already approved funding through the Development Authority.
We approved to participate in the payment for that. We don't, the purchase has to be made through, from the bank with the authority as a signing responsible party for payment of that, and then the city is back funds that payment. But
Participating as.
we're participating through a lease purchase as the payor.
But if they don't want to go through the Industrial Development Authority, our motion, or that we passed last meeting is really kind of mute.
I'm the messenger, I'm just giving the message.
And one question I have, if we do not participate in the purchase of this particular property, is the city going to purchase it anyway?
I think that's still got to go up for a vote. Then that can't be decided at this meeting.
Okay.
I think the political environment was brought into the picture, and I think that's unfortunate that we have a city council that is the governing body of this authority, and that would play into a decision like this that's already been voted on twice.
Well, anyone who thinks I have any political bones in my body is sort of mistaken.
Well, I understand,
Yeah.
but this is a public organization, and you're serving the public when you sit on it.
Right, and we decide right and wrong,
But
and I'm based on a right and wrong decision in this position.
I understand, and despite what one viewpoint be versus the other, I think it's important that we do everything we can moving forward to collaborate, and hopefully we can have collaboration between our council and the governing body of this authority and this authority.
I would certainly hope so, and we do anticipate full collaboration, but in my opinion, this is an issue that I would like to see revisited. If anyone else would have any comments?
So Bill, did you do the title search on the property? Who did the title search on the property?
Landrum. Well,
Landrum?
actually, he hadn't even finished that part of it.
So there's been no title search on the property?
Well, he's done it up to a point, but once the surveyor found the gore, or the ledge, there used to be a ledge, when I was a little boy, there was a ledge there, a concrete ledge. And when they stopped that, they stopped, and then they wanted me to furnish them a copy of a lease purchase that we did on the police station. We did that on the police station through Regions Bank,
Okay.
and I provided that with them. And the bank's attorney has not mentioned anything to me about any provision of that lease purchase that needed to be looked at.
So
So
that,
I believe in order to finish that title search, there'll have to be a boundary agreement between the neighbor and the
so my question would be, there's a gore there. There's a disputed piece of property, in other words.
No, a gore is actually a piece of property that nobody owns. That's what a gore is. And Phil,
So-
I'm not trying to get between Bill and Phil, but I've had multiple conversations with Phil about the title search, and he in no way indicated to me that it had not been completed. But I'm just relating the conversations that I've had. And
Okay.
so the gore is,
So there is no question that there is a gore there,
that's correct.
correct? Wait just a minute.
Okay.
So the property has changed from the time that we made our initial assessment of it. There was a change in the.
And how much property there is.
And how much property there is, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
So is it not?
We didn't know we did that.
Right, I understand, I just
It came out in the
sure I got my
survey
facts
that we
straight.
said we would do. It came out in the survey that we were asking
Gotcha.
for.
Gotcha. And there has been no appraisal on that piece of property. The city has not had any independent appraisal done on that, other than the tax assessor's information.
That's correct. We were not asked to by the authority or by the bank. But the answer is no appraisal's been done.
I would certainly be personally interested in looking at that property at a muchly reduced rate, but based on that price, you know, I can't possibly support it. But again, I'm one vote, so actually I don't vote on this situation.
So the only grounds we would have to change our decision was because the property isn't what we thought it was, as presented to us. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
That and the fact that the legal.
'Cause other than that, we can't just rescind our vote because we feel like it.
I don't know that the actual property size has changed. I don't know whether it has or not. I just know that.
I know when the
It was
county,
unidentified at your all's vote, now it's been identified.
I know when the county purchases property, that they have to have an appraisal done on the property. When they purchase and sell property, they have to have an appraisal done on the property. They have to have an independent appraisal on the property. Not because I'm an appraiser, right? I certainly would recuse myself from doing any appraisal on that, but don't y'all think it would be prudent if we investigated this a little further? I mean, don't y'all think that you know, hey, look, what are we buying? You know, how much are we? You know, how much is it worth? You know, what does an appraiser say it's worth? I mean, I just feel like that's a prudent, you know, vetting of the property.
If a loan is established, it's a requirement, wouldn't it?
Not necessarily for a municipal authority, right? I mean,
Well, they could require it, but I mean, we hadn't got there yet.
got to that point yet.
We had no indication the bank had any issue with the purchase price.
You're talking about the bank doing the finance?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Financing bank has shown no concerns.
I would just think it'd be prudent on the city's behalf to make sure they're paying fair value for something by having an appraisal done. But if that hasn't been done, I don't know where that stands.
So if it comes back lower, okay, if it comes back higher, then we get back to.
At least we know, at least we're not flying in the dark.
So we come back and reconvene again, but purchase it based on what we still have to purchase it, but we voted already.
Well, we're not going to actually purchase it. The city will be,
We're using this authority as a go-between.
We're going back to the legal part of
Right.
what, I'm still questioning that.
You'll be on the papers as the purchaser.
that is correct.
Be financed as a city.
And what's held
With
up so
city
far is
funds.
I haven't signed the paper. We've not got to the point where I will sign the papers.
Exactly.
I'm not doing so in any way other than a sweet piece of property. It's a great idea. It's too much money. Just too much money for that little piece of property there on the corner with without a justification, and basically they have nothing to do with it. They have, it's not a viable piece of property unless McDonald's buys it and puts it up there, and that'd be pretty neat. I could go by there and eat, but that's not a, it's not a viable piece of property for most situations at that type of value. So I think based on their pricing situation, it's utilizing the taxpayer-based funding with a situation, if you want it, here it is, and otherwise we'll just sit on it.
Mr. Chairman, would you entertain a motion?
Any other conversation? I would entertain a motion.
Well, I would make the motion that we table this until such time as we can have an appraisal done on it and properly examine the property to make sure, what's actually there and what the value of it is.
Have a motion.
Survey.
Well, the survey's been done. I mean, they say the survey's been done. I would just make that, subject to the appraisal, showing, the difference between what where that gore is and what kind of effect that has on it and what the value of the property is. That would be my motion.
Certainly.
Point of order.
Go ahead.
There's already been a motion which was seconded and voted on. And so you can't table a motion that's already been voted on publicly.
Right.
So,
Mr. Proctor, you're out of order. You're out of order. There's a motion on the table. There's a second.
You say.
We have a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I still don't know if we can legally do this. We agreed to something and now we're saying we don't agree to it. I don't know if we
You
have
can
any legal grounds.
rescind, you can rescind it.
You can't. So we're not, I mean, the acreage is what it is, they already voted on that.
Judge's motion was tabling motion, any action that we're doing today, but we're not here for an action. That particular motion, and I hate to say this, but that's we're not tabling anything because we're not here to do anything.
You're right.
All right, the meeting was called, we had done we had a motion to vote in, we unanimously supported it. What has created the issue is the fact that I haven't agreed to sign any documents. And that's after the fact, when I looked at the property, when I looked at the purchase price, I looked at the situation of, and it didn't have anything to do with political climate, because I don't know if it's hot or cold. But the fact that I don't agree with the purchase price. I think it's a good piece of property. to be used in certain ways, and I think you're killing me on the numbers. So, that was my issue, why I chose not to agree to sign the document. Now, if they want to do something in addition, but I'm still not going to sign the document, if they bring it to me. I just think we can't make that purchase at that particular price.
But purchase price was part of the motion.
Absolutely it was.
I don't think us as an authority have any option but continue as we agreed on, unless something's changed that I don't see.
Nothing has changed based on our purchase price. The issue of the void and the who owns which portion of that property has not been determined, yet it has been surveyed, and I assume there is a legal survey done for that property. The development.
Which I can provide if the
Downtown
authority would
Development
like to
Authority
look
has-
at it and see the gore.
Right, but there's no reason to, again, there is a motion, there was a second, there was a vote, and I'm refusing to sign the documents. So the issue is with me as opposed to the authority. If, have any discussion, any comments?
So what's next? What's our next step?
The
City can purchase it.
city can purchase it, you can do whatever actions are necessary to change me from, as the chairman of the development authority, but I will sign the paper. Any other comments from the group? Entertain
So
motion
we'll
to
come back with an appraisal value that you'd be comfortable with. We meet again to decide if you want to purchase it or not. If you're blocking what we voted to do, and I'm not saying what that's your opinion, but
Yeah, we can do it.
we could keep doing this and continue doing this. If it comes back and it's more, you're not gonna wanna pay more than that, so about how are we gonna go from there?
That's
I just,
I mean, I agree, you've been uptown for years and you know how much value I was too, but that doesn't tell us that property is worth to the, you know, I see a lot of reasons, but I don't, what we're going forward to do is to try to purchase that property, and you're blocking it just as the chair of our committee.
that's correct. I'm blocking it based on the price.
So, well, I don't know what is, but if it came back more, would you want,
I wouldn't want to pay more either, no.
but so the price is not gonna matter in your opinion?
No.
It's not gonna affect your opinion if we get one or not?
No.
That's what you're saying.
It's a frivolous purchase based on spending somebody's hard-earned money.
All right.
That's that simple. It's a taxation situation. People are out here working hard, doing, and paying their property taxes, and we're buying $100,000 plus another $40,000 additional, construction cost to make that into a usable
Right.
2-restroom area.
Right.
For,
I agree.
$140,000 is a lot for a bathroom. And it's not our money, it's something that's whoever decided to purchase that piece of property, no matter what the value, and that's wrong. So you only got two choices, right or wrong. I got this one as being wrong. And that's
Can I add
what
one?
Please.
So last year when we were evaluating public restrooms on the other property,
Mhm.
we had some simple designs that were evaluated by an architectural firm as well as a construction firm.
Yeah.
And the construction of a fairly simple unisex handicap access bathroom with two separate areas for different sexes. They were unisex, but they were lockable from inside.
Right.
Was well in excess of $140,000.
Sonny, have there been any estimates of how much it's going to cost to convert the old bank building into restrooms and take the canopy off or whatever? There been any studies done on that yet?
No,
We're getting an architect involved with that, come up with a plan that can be costed.
we have budgeted to start, we've had money budgeted to start those projects. The answer is no.
No.
In my experience, the budget of $25,000 could convert that into a nice restroom. But as for a hard quote, I don't have that in front of me, because I don't know what we're really gonna do with it yet, Chuck. When we determine that, then I can get a hard cost pretty easily.
But we do have funds budgeted on both of those projects, the Pro property and the Integra property.
Any further comments?
So we have a motion and a second to table.
Except that that's no longer on the,
Right.
that's not on the table anymore, right?
Well, that motion has to be voted up or down or something. We can't just leave the motion hanging.
Can I rescind the motion?
I can
Yes.
let you rescind.
Can I rescind the motion? Well, I'll rescind the motion.
Okay, motion is rescinded. Anyone else has something they would like to bring up? We want to look at a different situation as far as leadership of the group or anything like that. I'm more than welcome. I've got my opinion, and I think it's based on sound decisions that are, you know, again, we're throwing around tax money. I don't see throwing it around as being a good idea. The people who pay it probably don't worry that much about paying more for a piece of property than it actually has to be purchased.
The only comment I would make, if we had a do-over, which we don't, we should have asked the question, has there been an appraisal? And this whole issue would never come up, but that's hindsight, we can't go there, so.
To entertain a motion.
To adjourn? So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you very much.